Alright, YouTube, what is up? I don't really know if this video is going to be a real talk or one of these motivational stuff I post, but I want to help, so I want to help you. That's the whole point of this channel, to help people who are like me when I needed it the most. And I wanted to talk about something very significant, because lately I've been in a very self-reflective stage, because I'm in like that middle point of where I'm like on the verge of achieving my goal. And you would think, right, I would be stressed, because if you've been keeping up with my channel, actually, if you're a new viewer, I'll explain it to you right now. I have actually been through one of the hardest phases of my life to get into my desired course, which is physiotherapy. And it's a monumental story, which I will share soon. Leaving it up to God, I've done my part. But, you know, it has definitely transformed me as an individual, and I want to share a lot of the things I've learned, and that's what kind of inspired a little bit of tonight's video. I was trying to record this, actually, like at my lake where I usually record, but, you know, there were so many insects. I'll probably play it right here.
As you're achieving your... What the fuck?
Yeah, so that was not ideal, but, yeah, let's talk about it. So I don't really know what to title this video, but it's something to do with high standards, because as I've been self-reflecting, I have realized that I don't think these are high standards. I just think if you're ambitious, you should just naturally hold yourself to a better standard, because you're trying to be better. Why would you hold yourself where you're at or even lower? That doesn't make any sense. And a lot of people try to confuse high standards with perfectionism, even though a lot of people don't understand that maybe you just see yourself doing something that you know you can do, but because other people can't, they call it perfectionism. That's not a good way to look at it, because there's a difference between aiming to be better and trying to be perfect. Because trying to be perfect is trying not to make mistakes. How could you possibly try, and you're already making a mistake by trying to not do that, if that makes sense. But seriously, like, no bullshit, let's talk about it. Having high standards is good. I hold myself to it, you hold yourself to it. That's an amazing trait. Never not hold yourself to anything. But especially during the semester, as I got better and refining my systems, like just better at studying and better like at being disciplined and whatnot, when you start raising the bar, what feels like shit is actually not bad. But because your standards are so high, are higher, it makes it feel like what you're doing isn't even that good. And the problem with that is that's when you really start to overthink, and you could actually self-sabotage and set yourself back. Let me explain. Referencing one of my assessments, I don't think this has ever happened to me, because I overthink to the point where I overthink to make sure that I'm not making mistakes by overthinking. I don't even know if that makes sense, but I hope it did. But let's say I didn't do what I just did. This is ridiculous of what I'm saying. When you have high standards, in a way you feel like, for my assessment, I thought I had to make my assessment so flawless. I had to study so perfectly and so precise for tests, to where whether the marker was marking one of my projects, they had absolutely no excuse not to give me 100% or close to 100%, or whether it was taking a test, I would quiz myself even harder than what I knew the test would test me on. So I was fully prepared for the test on that day. Like, it would be way easier than what I was quizzing myself to. The problem is with that, it's not necessarily a bad thing if you do it with wisdom and discernment, but what I uncovered is having these standards, you end up stressing yourself out more, and you can self-sabotage. Like, I remember there was the exam, the final one. I ended up quizzing myself so hard for it. When it came to the actual exam day, I honestly believe I could have gotten 100% easily. But because I over-prepared, I was overthinking the questions so much. And this happened for a couple of them, to where I was like, wait, even though it seems so straightforward and I can tell there's a couple of tricks in there? What if it's trying to really, really trick me because I've been holding myself to that standard to where it's actually a completely different answer to that question, even though it was so obvious for me to answer because I'm holding myself to that high standard. I ended up getting the question wrong because I completely overthought and self-sabotaged it. That's not a good place to be. I just wanted to share the downside of what having high standards can do, and if you don't have wisdom when you do it. Just understand this. You can have these standards, they're not a bad thing, but do not be hard on yourself and don't try to be perfect. The best way I found to look at it is like, okay, I'm progressing towards my goals every single day. I'm going to hold myself to that standard and try and get as close as I can every single day possible to it. But I'm also aware enough to know that no one else is holding themselves to that standard. Only me. Only a very few are, but I haven't come into contact with them yet. And when you approach life like that, where it's in a way, you're allowed to make mistakes, if that makes sense. I feel like since you trust yourself enough to know that you've been putting in the work, but also you're giving yourself enough grace to make mistakes in the process, that's when you really start like elevating a lot faster, because you're not overthinking to the point where you're self-sabotaging, and you're also giving yourself grace to understand that you are going to make mistakes. Because you've accepted both of these, that's when you really start excelling. That video was a little bit more complicated than I wanted it to be. I'm still working on my communication skills on this channel, but I really hope that made sense, and I really hope it did resonate with you. And I really hope you could get something from that and apply it to your own life, or your dreams, or your goals, or the person you're trying to be. So as always, my friend, keep doing what you're doing, and I'll see you in the next one.